can go ahead and get started. So thank you all for coming. Is everybody having a good weekend so far?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Welcome to the Kinetic Artists panel, one of the Kinetic Artists panel. We actually have many Kinetic Artists panels throughout the weekend, so this is just the latest and maybe last one I think we've got going on this weekend. But got a diverse group of artists and makers and restorers up here, and it's going to be a conversational kind of discussion with them on a few different topics, and then I'll prompt them with some questions. We'll have some discussion, and we'll take questions and answers from the crowd. So my name is Brett King. I'm the founder of AutomataCon and a hobby artist. I mostly work in steampunk art, steampunk aesthetic, and have been dabbling in automatons. And ironically, when I started this, I thought, oh, this would be a great way to force me artistically to get more into automatons, and instead I ended up getting more into event organizing, artistic side of it. But hopefully now that I've kind of got things rolling, this is our third AutomataCon, that I'll be able to get back in the shop and start building some more things. But I have an esteemed group of panelists here, and so I'll go down through and let each of them sort of introduce themselves. I'll give you a brief intro, and then if you can just explain who you are and what you do a bit, and maybe something that you saw this weekend that inspired you, and maybe a particular piece that you liked this weekend that you saw. So first up, we'll go with Gaughan. John is a master illusion maker, and if you've seen any stage musicians performing in public, some of the big ones, it's likely that John is the man behind the mirror on some of those illusions. So John, would you like to take it from there?
Thank you. Yes, I'm from Los Angeles, and I have a little company out there that builds illusions for professional magicians and the like, and been in the business for many, many years. I love, had a passion for automata and mechanical things such as that, and I've been to all of the AutomataCons and look forward to many more. So I'm here to add whatever questions you have for us.
Okay, thank you, John. Kate. Kate is an artist as well, and I believe when I reached out to her, she was a little hesitant. It's like, well, I just kind of fumble along with things, but I'll show you one of her videos here after she introduces herself, but I think you'll see she fumbles along pretty well. Kate, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Kate Thompson. I started out a long, long time ago as a press operator, running pre-OSHA offset presses, so I got really entranced by gears and machinery, and I ended up helping to work in the early days of the visual internet in the early 90s. So I went from press operator to coder, and then when I retired, I got entranced by machines.
Okay, and Kate, maybe I'll show your short video here, just as a way of introduction. Show some of your pieces.
I thought these would be very popular pre-pandemic, but early one. This would, when somebody walked up, IR sensor would sense their presence and begin to wipe out a picture of an endangered animal. So.
Thank you very much. I love the character that you put into those pieces with, just a small amount of movement can make such a huge statement. It's great
Yes,
pieces.
highly unsophisticated little machines.
Playing there.
Next suggestion?
Chris Fitch is an amazing artist. He's had quite a few pieces in some of our exhibits here at the Morristown Museum over the past few years, some of the Kinetic exhibits. I believe he won Best in Show in 2018 with the Bird of Paradise, which he'll have a video of in the mini film festival later today. Chris is a multi-talented artist with backgrounds in puppetry and stop-motion animation. Chris, you want to introduce yourself, and then maybe we'll pick a video if you want to show a bit of your work?
Yeah, sure. As Brett says, I actually grew up in a puppet theater. My family had a puppet theater when I was growing up, and so I got an early start in, character development and mechanics, puppet mechanics. And then after college, started an emergency amusement company with my brother and Doug, who's also an artist and puppeteer. And it was called Titanic Events, and that sunk pretty rapidly. And then became stop motion. Started doing puppet and set and armature design for a stop motion company in the Boston area. And then after that, went off to just on my own do mechanical sculptures and various kinds of consulting for industry and basically making things that do things of all sorts. Over the years, that sort of broad spectrum of activities has included puppetry, animation, robotics now. A lot of robotics up here now, and all the while I've been sort of keeping a hand in the studio, making things that move. So I don't know, what would you like to see?
You flying solo here?
Well, that's in the show. Why don't we pick something that's not in the show? In the last show, the Pocket Sardine, you can see that one if you wanted to.
Okay.
It's just it's a little piece. In the last show that was here, which many people didn't see because it was during the pandemic, it was a show of miniatures. This is just a little fishy that's inside a sardine can. That's very simple. It's all made out of tin cans, food cans, specifically fish cans.
Is the weight in the back, is that like a sinker or?
It's a fishing weight.
Fish weight, and is it sort of keeps a mechanical purpose, or is it just?
It keeps the weight. Yeah, it keeps tension on the drive.
Okay, great. That's a very clever tie-in. You needed a weight and you tied it in thematically, which is great. I love that. Okay, let me go back to the presentation over here. So, John, one of the things we talked about is that there's a lot of crossover in automata with sort of other hobbies or professions or interest areas. We have people that come to AutomataCon who are from the magic community. We have people that come that are watchmakers and kind of horology profession. We've got people that are into puppetry and things like stop motion animation and other kinds of kinetic sculptures like ball sculptures, the kinetic ball machines and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how magic and automata intersect and what that connection is?
Well, yes, sure. Of course, automata goes back for many hundreds of years, and I think it probably started when a magician watched an automata builder present his piece for an audience, and he would wind it up, of course, and stand back and the audience would see these fascinating come to life elements, and the magician would say, boy, I would like to have that, but wouldn't it be great if the piece would do things at my command? So the magician then would go back to his own little shop and come up with ways of doing this. And usually they would be an addition of strings that pulled at the opportune question time, like saying it had cards selected and the automata would announce what it was by either tapping 3 times for the 3 of spades or something to that order. And they became more and more complex, and even to the point that I just saw the picture of myself with Antonio Diavallo, made by the great French magician in 1848, the trapeze performer Antonio Diavallo. And he went through a 7-minute routine where Robert Houdin would bring out this 34-inch high puppet and put him on the trapeze bar, and then the puppet would come to life and go through this routine where he would do all these gymnastic pieces that were originally made famous by an Italian acrobat named Antonio Diavallo. And so Robert Houdin went back to his shop and actually duplicated the guy's act mechanically, but by clockwork. And this is what has survived today, and we present this every once in a while, and it's amazing that it goes through all these handstands and different gymnastic poses. He hangs, he lets go and hangs by his knees, and then comes back up, and after 2 swings he jumps off the trapeze bars back into my hands, and then takes a bow. All that being an automaton.
It's really astonishing. I would love to see what goes on inside that thing. You're not sharing secrets, are you?
Well, sure, come on over and you'll see it.
Yeah, whatever you get John Secret.
That's a good invitation. I'm going to take that up.
Yeah. But the magician took the classic automata pieces and of course enhanced them and gave them an extra bit of life and intensity in the presentation. So that was what pulled me along.
John, you mentioned card routines. I understand you discovered mill times here. Is that the correct pronunciation there?
Yes. Miltiades was a bear head, and I bought by this man named Dr. Hooker. And Dr. Hooker was an amateur magician living in Brooklyn, and he always wanted to do a magic act, and he made his fortune in rubber, some sort of a rubber chemical process. And when he retired at an early age, he hired a couple of German mechanics from the Mardeka Magic House, and he built an act for him that his wife would not let him do in their house. So he had to do it out in the carriage house behind there, up above the horses. And he started in 1915 presenting this act, and it's an hour-and-a-half routine with just a deck of cards. And he would invite in all of the dignitaries and magicians of the time there to present this wonderful card act. I mean, to tell the story, I mean, doing one card trick is boring enough, but do an hour and a half.
So why not let him do it in the house?
Difficult.
Okay.
So anyway, he kept incorporating more and more things into the act to kind of give it flavor. And one of the things was he saw down at a local department store this teddy bear, and he got got the teddy bear and used just the head of the bear and named it Maltides, and he put it on a pedestal, and it would float in the air and answer questions. And then he put a glass dome over it later on in the act, and it would do all of the same things under a glass dome. And now we're talking. Yeah. And it's still to this day, when we get all the parts together to perform it, that to me is the most remarkable animation.
I can see why maybe his wife would want the floating bear head in the garage. That would make sense to me.
Yeah.
So that mechanism survives.
Yes, yeah, we got all of the equipment from the grandson about 30 years ago, and put it together, and we put on a conference on magic history every couple of years, and we presented it there in Los Angeles.
How long did his marriage last?
What's that?
How long does his marriage last?
Good question.
Kate, have you seen any kind of crossover in kinetic art with other sort of areas of interest that you might be involved in?
I think something that's happening now is people are beginning to incorporate microprocessors into it as that technology becomes way more accessible. It's becoming very plug and play with things like MakeBit, and so it's easier and easier to figure out how to incorporate sort of automatics into the automata itself.
Have you experimented with that?
Yeah, I have, and I'm not very good at it. So right now, I'll have the automata box, and then it's full of wires because I haven't figured out how to actually make the circuit board, which you can do. You can actually send out for a circuit board. So we're still at that stage. I'm here to make all of you feel this is a very accessible art.
No, I don't believe anybody that tells me they're an expert in automaton making. I mean, there are certainly some out there, and we certainly have some here, but I shouldn't say I don't believe that they're an expert. What I've heard from just about everybody is that you are continually learning because you're never doing the same thing twice, right? You're having to learn how to do new motions, incorporate new technologies, incorporate new ideas, and so there's never room to not grow as an automaton artist. My perspective on it. You guys feel free to tell me differently, but I think everybody starts somewhere, and then it's just continuous learning from then on out. So
I like to think of it as that you just fail repeatedly until your most recent failure approximates the original idea. Okay.
How about you, Chris? How about with puppetry or stop motion or some of the other areas that you've seen kind of crossover in the kinetic art space?
I think it's a very natural fit. I mean, I actually don't really, I never really considered myself as an automatist particularly. I think that this community kind of drew me in. Originally, I think specifically through Alan Rixford's book, Figures in the Fourth Dimension, which is actually for sale in the gift shop over there. She found me, and I just thought of myself as a kinetic sculptor, making all sorts of kinetic sculptures. As she kind of drew me into this community, I sort of recognized that I had a lot of the skill sets that kind of fit, and so why not? I'm an automatist too, automatist also. Actually, I had sort of a thought about when you were starting to say, well, the microprocessors are sort of a new frontier in this art form, and that is true. My personal feeling about microprocessors is that as soon as you introduce electronics into a piece like, for my aesthetic at least, it's a little bit like, it disappears into a black box. You can't follow the motion anymore visually as a onlooker. And I like to think of these things as kind of magic tricks, but with your sleeves, with short sleeves. Everything's exposed, everything's available to you to figure out if you want to look at it and see how it works. As soon as as soon as you introduce electronics into that, you can't do that anymore. And while sometimes it's appropriate for the piece, and in fact I use electronics occasionally myself, I try to keep it to a minimum if I can.